That's the one.
I can see you.
Right, okay.
And what a
So
nice
this is the...
background. I would like to be there. I don't know if you are there or it's a background, but
No,
I like it.
I'm just in my kitchen, but this looks a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right. So thanks everybody for joining, and hope everybody tunes in. So as you look at it, we've got Anna on the left and Nerea on the right, but I don't know, it's probably backwards for them. So if you think visas and rental contracts, and you don't need to look at me, right? We've got that. Okay, excellent. Right, so basically the purpose of this is just lawsolicitors.com. Actually, Anna, we do have to say none of these certificates are ours, are they? All the certificates behind you, they're not ours, are they?
Yeah. It is, yeah.
I think they're Maurice's, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, this is Marisa's. Yes.
Right. So this is just lawsolicitors.com. I'm an English barrister, so ignore me. I'm not qualified to tell you anything. But Anna on the left for visas and Nerea on the right for property. And today, the first question we're going to look at, and people have already asked this, is I want to come to Spain, and I might need a visa, I might not, but do I get the rental contract before the visa, or do I get the visa before the rental contract? Because we do advise people to rent before they buy in Spain, even though we want your money. So which of you two Spanish lawyers are going to go first and answer that question?
Okay, let's see. There is a little tricky. As I always say, we first need to determine what type of visa you're applying for. Or if you want a visa, let's say you can rent for 90 days as a tourist and you stay here. For example, it could be a standard rental agreement for short term, let's say, signed, or Airbnb, for example. Or you would like, you would like to rent for 1 year, but only came to Spain for these 90 days.
Well, let's look at some examples, and let's give a real possible example. Say I want to retire to Spain. I can get the non-lucrative visa. There's no age limit. I can't work. I'm thinking about the non-lucrative visa. We always say the NLV, but the non-lucrative visa. Say I've got that in my mind. I'm American. I'm 47. I have 30,000 euros in my bank account. All that kind of stuff. Do I get the rental contract or do I get the visa? Which way around do I do it?
This is important that you mentioned that it's the United States, because let's see, many, if not all, of the Spanish consulate in the US ask to prove at least 3 months of accommodation. Which documents they ask for this? Lease or the property. And in this case, it's a tricky. Let's say for now, it is acceptable to have an Airbnb. But let's say it is the communication that we made, for example, with Washington. Let's say, yes, this we will accept. It is possible that in future they will ask exactly the rental contract. So it is possible.
Right. So as we stand here in August 2026, a point that I forgot to make, and Anna makes it all the time, is different consulates around the world interpret the Spanish law differently. To me, after 35 years at the bar in England, that's completely bonkers, but that does actually happen. So in America, in the United States, at the present time, you have to show 3 months of accommodation, like Airbnb or a lease. So every question is really difficult to answer. But if I ask you the question as an English person, thinking about the non-lucrative visa coming to Spain, what's the answer then?
The answer is that at the moment they ask only for the address. We need to determine the address. So they do not ask the proof of accommodation, which is the most important. We can say that, okay, we will stay in Madrid, for example, with the friends or some, for example, approximate address. And it could work. But we also do not know until when. So I recommend to my clients to have the at least, for example, we think that everything prepared, consulate had 3 months to give the answer. So since the approximate date of the entry into Spain, at least the short term, for the 2, 3 weeks, 1 month, doesn't matter, to link already with the address and have some proofs in case, because the most important that immigration office or the consulate, once the application is already submitted, they might ask us for any additional document. So if they have doubts, they can ask, okay, but where? You say that you live in Paseo Castellana. Show us that you have something, and they will be in a total right to do it.
Right. You could have an Airbnb, you could have what I would call a real long-term rental contract. You could be staying with family or friends,
Yes.
or, and it's outside the scope of the podcast, live, whatever you want to call it today, you could have bought a property.
Yeah, but it's already a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so whether or not you need an address does depend on which consulate you apply to.
Exactly. Depend on the consulate. They will ask you the proof document signed by the parties or just an address. So it is
Right.
very important when we first have the first consultation as where you will apply. What is your nationality, what passport, and what consulate corresponds you, so we can directly see what are the requirements regarding that.
Right. So it's quite a tricky one, actually. Yeah. So Nerea, so we go over to Nerea on the right. Now Nerea is going to talk about rental contracts. Now, briefly, I mentioned Airbnb, but so there's different types of rental contracts, presumably.
Yes, we have the short rental contract, which is like a temporal contract, or we have the long-term contract. For example, regarding this kind of visa, my recommendation would be, for example, if you are in United States, you can see the property. So maybe you are not sure to having a long-term contract because you don't know you don't know the place where you are going to live, or maybe once you are there, you want to change to another place of Spain because you have been there and you like it more. So having a short period contract, that would be good in these kind of cases. Or for example, if you are interested in buying a property. So with a short period contract, of course, we always recommend to review it because you are less protected than a long-term contract, but it's offered you the possibility to stay 3 or 4 months until you can be sure if you want to go to another part of Spain, or you want to have a better property to live for a long-term contract. So it really depends which option you prefer, or according to the visa, if it is better a short or a long-term contract. That of course, even if it seems the same, they have exceptions in the law and really have to be reviewed in order to know if it is okay or not according to the visa and according to the law.
Right. So for rental contracts, there's your typical Airbnb short-term contract. So obviously, everybody knows Airbnb. It's lower risk, isn't it? There's varying degrees of risk in applying for places that are advertised, but Airbnb is relatively safe. But there's Airbnb, and then there's long-term contracts. But I've seen places advertised for teachers from September to June. Is that a particular category itself?
Yes, this is, for example, when you are applying for a short rental contract, you have to justify why there is a short rental contract, because the law is more supposed to a permanent residence. So when we are talking about a short rental contract, it's really difficult to justify a short rental contract for 1 year, 1.5 years, or 2 years. The short rental contract, it has to be justified because you need this for a temporary reasons.
Right. So if they try and say to you, I'm just renting it from September to June, but it's your only house, then you can when June comes, you can go, no, sorry, this isn't allowed. So I just got me there, Gareth. Thanks. How much money do I need to be able to tie to Spain permanently in southern Spain? Well, if assuming Gareth, well, Anna, you tell him. So that's a non-lucrative visa. How much is it for a single person? You know better than me.
Non-lucrative, depend if you have everything in a savings or you have pension. If it's a passive income, like a pension, for example, for one person, monthly you need to receive around 2,400 euros. And
Right.
speaking about the savings, my answer is as much as possible, of course, but for 1 year it's counting in 14 payments, 34,000 euros. Why? Because if you don't apply in this year, next year it could be modified. So you will always be in this from 30 to 34,000 euros, let's say it will be approved.
Right,
And
so there you go, Gareth. I hope that answers your question. 2,400 euros a month if you've got a passive income, or 34,000 in the bank. Health insurance is outside the scope of this, but yeah, just remember to budget for that. So yeah, so if you go so to summarize it, I see an advert, it says September to June. I go there intending to live there permanently. Come June, they can't sort of kick me out because they have no reason for that contract. Is that right?
If the short contract is justified, for example, as you told in the beginning, because you're a teacher and you have a contract just for this period of time, once June arrives, you have to move out to the property if you don't want to become a squatter. But for example, if you are applying for a visa or because you are not interested in being in this property from more than a couple of months, then the short contract is justified. But sometimes the landlord, in order to avoid to having the same person for a long period of time, because the long-term contract is more protective to the tenant rather than the landlord, they establish that this is a short period contract when the reason is not justified. So the reality is that you need these residents to live permanently. So when this is the case, you can contest the short rental contract in order to become a long-term contract, which is something that if the landlord doesn't agree, you will have to start legal action. So for that
Yeah.
reason, it's always better to have a lawyer to review the contract.
Yeah. So there you go. So Gareth, 2,500 a month in pounds before tax. Yeah, that's fine for the non-lucrative visa. But just budget for the health insurance. Unless, Anna, you can be over 65, can't you, and get the S1 in England? It's very particular to it.
better to confirm with the authorities, but I think yes, the S1 you can receive once you retire. And regarding the amount, there is a mention that is before taxes. My recommendation is receive this 2,400, let's say, goes in cash in your bank account.
Right. So if you can show the gross receipts for the rental properties, Gareth, today's exchange rates, this is August, it's going to be well in excess. You're not going to have a problem. If you're over 65, look into the S1. If not, look into private health insurance, email us. We can put you in touch with some brilliant people. The key thing about the private health insurance, again, not related to this podcast, is please make sure that your private health insurance is okay for your visa. You don't want to buy the wrong insurance. And then Anna goes, no, sorry. So check with Anna. This is a good question, Anna, from Raphael. The cheapest residence, how much is it? Is that going to be the non-lucrative visa? Would that be the same?
Oh, no, let's say, and quotes saying that the cheapest residency and visa is the one that allow you to work, because you will not live on your savings. So let's say it's your cheapest residency because you can refill your financial risk here. Oh, I could say.
I mean, it's not easy to get a job as a foreign national outside of the EU, but if you do, that would be the cheapest way, because you can just go, you can do that. Otherwise, it's going to be about 2,400 euros a month if you're on the non-lucrative visa. The digital nomad visa, is that about the same? That's about the same, isn't it?
Well, let's say yes. I mean, if we're speaking about the cheapest one, what is will be better? The one which allow you to work. The one which allow you to work, you can also, let's say, show your savings, but it's not important for the application. You already allowed, for example, you demonstrated that I allowed to work. What it could be? Digital nomad. You can work. You a worker. Then it could be a high qualified professional with a company in Spain. You don't need to demonstrate that you are in the list of difficult occupations. In the worst case scenario, for example, you do not qualify, you don't find for example, employer here at the moment. It could be a student. For example, you came to study at the university. In this case, the higher education allow you to work 30 hours per week. Quotes is also the cheapest one. If we're speaking about this, and
Yeah.
it's a little bit tricky, but okay. Always need to be checked the requirements and the personal situation of the applicant. What it will be suitable, what chances, and what are the personal situation that we can adapt, or what visa could be adapted for this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Raphael, you'll have to tell us a bit more about your circumstances. But to go back to, I think it was Graham before. At 50, you're going to need private health insurance. You're younger than me, so hopefully, it's not going to be very expensive. I think mine's about 1,200 a year. So yeah, hopefully, if there's nothing wrong with you, hopefully, touch wood, it's going to be less than that. But like I say, email Anna or send me a message. We'll put you in touch with someone who can sell you a policy that is absolutely sure that it's not going to be a problem. So yeah, so to go back to the renting situation, just to people, we're talking about visas, renting, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. And Nerea was saying that there's three different categories. The first category is the Airbnb short-term category. The second category is the September to June category, but the landlord can't sort of bend it to fit you if you're not, say, for example, a teacher. And then the third category is the I'm living here permanent category, I presume.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Now, everybody thinks that it's very, very difficult if we look at it from the landlord's point of view, it's very, very difficult for the landlord to remove the tenant on a permanent contract. So what are your rights? How long can you stay under a permanent contract?
With the permanent contract, the minimum period of time that the law obliges the landlord to have a tenant is until 5 years. This doesn't mean that you have to be for sure these 5 years. Each year there is a renovation, and it's up to the tenant to renew it or not until this 5-year maximum. Then the only basic that the landlord can use in order to resolve the contract is because, of course, you have breached the contract, for example, you stop paying or something like that, or because the landlord needs the property for his family or for himself. Of course, this has to be in writing, in writing in the contract. If this is not established in the contract, the landlord can use this right to resolve the contract before these 5 years.
Right. So you can stay for 5 years, and after 5 years, if you don't want to leave, then the landlord would have to take you to court.
Yes, but only if the landlord has informed you 2 months in advance, if I'm not wrong, that he doesn't want the contract to be in an extraordinary renovation.
Right. What about if I sign the contract and after a year, I think I'm going to leave, I want to buy a house? How does that work?
You have to inform the landlord 1 month in advance that you want to resolve the contract.
Right. Okay. So you give the landlord a month's notice. And I suppose the other question is, can the landlord increase the rent? How does that work?
They only can increase the rent if this is the same as I for before, if it is in writing in the contract. If this is clause is not established in the contract, the landlord can't increase the rent. Even if this is added in the contract, it doesn't mean that he can increase the rent as long as they want. He can only increase the rent according to the abaremo that the law will establish.
Right. What if I just go and live somewhere and someone says, yeah, I'll rent you this property for say €500 a month. I pay my €500 a month. nothing has been signed. It just continues. What happens then? Is that very difficult from a legal point of view?
It will be something that it leave you in some kind of insecurity. So my recommendation would be always to have a contract. Of course, if there is not any kind of contract signed, the law, in order to protect you, establishes that the contract is verbal. But the main problem with a verbal contract is that as nothing is writing, everything can be discussed.
Yeah, I suppose the evidence would be I send him 500 euros every month. So it begs the question: why am I giving this person 500? So is it possible that the courts can infer from that and my verbal evidence? I'm living here. I'm on the padron. I have an electric bill. I have a water bill, or I send money, internet bill, and then it would be a court case to decide what the contract was.
Yes, I believe that if there is nothing in writing, the minimum part of the law that are mandatory for sure is going to be applied, and the rest it will depend on what is discussed or what is proved in front of the judge. Then the decision it will be in the judge's hand.
Right. Okay. So to go back to you, I'm sorry, for people who've just joined, Anna's up on the left and she's talking about visas, and Maria's on the right talking about rentals. We've done many a podcast on property purchases. So we're talking about when you come to Spain, do you need to get the visa first? You need to get the rental first, or which way around? So I think, Anna, do you want to just go through which visas you need to apply for when you're in Spain and which visas you need to apply for in your home country, the country of residence?
Speaking about have to, for example, you have to apply for the non-lucrative, the self-employed, in certain circumstances of the student visas out of Spain.
Right. So the self-employed, non-lucrative visa, student visa, before you come to Spain, you have no choice.
No, I mean, certain options of the student visa, you have to apply out of Spain. Some of them allow you to apply in Spain. Some variations, let's say. Then, for example, some variations of student visa, as I said, can be applied from Spain. Higher education, for example. Then, the family reunification in the standard way, you also have to be out of Spain to apply for this through the consulate. Digital nomad, high qualified entrepreneur could be applied from Spain. Student visa, high education. I mean, there's the differences, a lot of the differences. I can't remember exactly what and how, but these are the main ones.
But so the interesting thing about the digital nomad visa is you can actually be in Spain and you can think, oh, okay, I'll find my rental, live here a little while, see if I like it. And then from Spain, you can apply for the digital nomad visa.
Exactly, you can do it.
Yeah, but is it in Spain? If you apply in Spain, you don't get as long if you apply out of Spain. Is that right?
Yes, it's right. If you're applying for a digital nomad or high qualified out of Spain, you will receive 1 year visa. Yes or yes. No, doesn't matter the conditions. But if you're applying from Spain, of course, depend. But the maximum that you can receive is 3 years residency.
Right. So, Faisa, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, the digital nomad visa, you can come to Spain and apply for it, but it's better if you want longer, do it in your country of residence because you get longer. But I suppose the advantage of doing it in Spain is you can be living here at the time. So yeah, there is that.
It is very important to do it in the 90 days. Always.
Yeah, be careful of the 90 days. For people who don't have an EU passport, they're not married to an EU citizen, you can only stay in Spain for 90 days in a 180-day period. Now, Nerea, regarding the rentals, I want to talk about this in two different parts before everybody in the comments goes crazy. I want to talk about the legal side and then, oh God, you've got to be careful side. So the legal side is you can rent a place in Spain without ever coming to Spain, without ever seeing a property, that's legally possible, isn't it?
Yes, but it is not. So it's my point of view. I would recommend to ask for a nota simple from the land registry in order to check that the person that is supposed to be the landlord match with the person that is established in the land registry in order to certify that you are signing with the real owner of the property.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Legally, you can be sitting in, let's have a different country, Canada, and you can see a property online. You can enter into a contract with the person you believe is the owner or the agent of that property, representing the pictures that you think of that property, and that can be a legal contract. And I really hope that there's no problems. But if it was me, then I would have a lawyer review it, because you need to know, does this place actually exist? Does the person, are they instructed by the landlord to rent the property out? Are they actually the owner? Are they the landlord of the property? And just to go off on a bit of a track, on a tangent, I did see a really interesting, I'll use that adjective, scam. I think it was in Sevilla. What somebody did was they actually rented a property. I won't say through which platform, because it's unfair to the platform. It's got nothing to do with them. They rented a property short term. What they did was they got a load of keys. They pretended they were the landlord. They took the deposit. They were saying to people, oh, we've got a lot of interest. You'll have to pay 6 months in advance. Okay, here's the contract. Here's your key. Brilliant scam. And of course, they'd only rented it short term. They then disappeared. They took all the money. So, and obviously, there's the other scams where somebody just gets some images on the internet and just says, this is my house. But we do have a full rental review service, and Nuria can go through all the rental contract, make sure you're not being scammed, things like that. So the question that, moving on from that, is assuming everything's legal, I'm not being scammed or anything like that. Do I have to pay the agent some money? Because I've seen lots and lots of agents asking for money. Is that legal?
If this is a long-term contract, legally is the landlord the person obliged to pay the fees of the agent, the real estate agent. But
I've seen agents ask for money in adverts on the internet. I mean, you can't get more blatant than that. So yeah, it's illegal for an agent to ask for money for a long-term contract.
Yes, it is illegal.
Right. So assuming the agent's behaving themselves, and we'll stick to the 500 example, in land you could get something nice for 500 a month. So say, for example, it's the 500. How much, is there a limit, like the deposit I have to pay? How many months deposit do I have to pay? Do I have to pay rent in advance? How does that work?
According to the law, in a long-term contract, the rent is just 1 month in advance. So, for example, if you are going to start to live in September, you pay September. So you can pay 2 or 3 months of the rent in advance, just the month that you are living. Regarding the deposit, they can only ask for 1 month of deposit in order to cover if something happened to the property, and 2 more as a guarantee that you are going to fulfill the contract.
So you pay a month's rent in advance, a month's deposit, and what was the other one?
And 2 more as a guarantee, as a maximum.
As a maximum, right. So the worst case, if you're going into a long-term contract, is you have to pay 4 months.
Yes.
Yeah. And obviously, please get that specified in the contract, make a bank transfer, think about that. Yeah, Moshe, the digital nomad visa, you can apply for it if you want, but we're talking about legally doing it with us through the lawyer. But we're just talking about the visas in general today. So just to go back, so it's 4 months is worst case that you'd have to pay. And what about being on the Padron? Do I need to be on the Padron?
The padron is depends, exactly. Let's say, generally, everybody will need to be in the padron. It's a, let's say, obligation. So in this case, in the sphere of the visas, For example, we need to establish where is your permanent address. That's why it's a padron.
Yeah, the padron, just people, sorry, I skipped that part. The padron is proof of where you live in Spain. It's not an NIE number, that's something different. The padron is like, you are here in this ayuntamiento, which is like town hall, and this is where you live.
Exactly. And let's say, the padron establish where is your permanent address, not just address. Airbnb will not need a padron, and you can't. There is a strict requirements for the padron. You can go to one town hall and they have general requirements, and another one will have different requirements. Generally, if we're speaking about the rental agreements, in this case, what I can say is that generally in Spain, the minimum time you need, duration of the rental agreement is 6 months. With a 6 month minimum, you can register in the padron. Difference could be, for example, in Barcelona area, Catalonia, where they can accept 3 months of.
So it all depends on where you're going in Spain.
Exactly, but the rental contract there is not only the one document. For example, if they have doubts, and usually they might ask, for example, authorization from the landlord. Additionally, if it's, for example, not included at the rental agreement, they will ask a part with the DNI of the or passport of the landlord to prove that the person with whom you signed the contract is the person who is the owner in it. Taxes or proof of the property ownership, they also might ask. Why? Because of a lot of the scams, exactly. Because you can pretend to have the rental contract, you go there, and you didn't sign it with the owner, and there could be the problem. So this is what we, for example, Nerea doing, that we checking that the owner is the owner, and we will prepare a document that after you might use for the padron.
Yeah. So just to go back to Nerea on the right, who's talking about the rentals, and Anna on the left is the visas. Nerea, Anna mentioned like a 6-month contract. Is it legally possible to have a 6-month contract, or does it have to be permanent? Is that possible?
If this 6 months contract can be justified, this can be a short contract. But
So I can say I just need 6 months because I want to get on the padron to get my digital nomad visa, and I'm in this big thing about buying a property, but yeah, I need a 6-month contract. That's going to be fine.
I have some clarification, let's say.
Ah,
The padron, short-term contracts usually are not they're not the best one that you provide.
there
Let's
is
say
a risk.
it's a risk. The town hall looking for the permanent address, so you're going there to leave. 6 months is just a let's say minimum. You can have it for 5, for 3 years, for 12 months, but it's a minimum with which they just start to look for it.
yeah.
And
So
it has to be the permanent address. They're looking for that. You want to establish your permanent address here. We need a contract that justifies that it's a permanent address and permanent property where you effectively will live. So
Yeah.
in this case, be careful with this.
yeah. So the belt and braces most secure option is get the category 3 one, the permanent contract, because if you want, you can give a month's notice down the line to leave the property. So yeah, so just to be absolutely sure, then yes, get the permanent contract. So the other thing, I move into my new place, Nerea, and there's all this furniture. Well, let's go back a step. Legally, can I rent a place with no furniture, or does it have to have furniture, or doesn't it matter?
You can find a property to rent with furniture or without it. It really depends on the conditions. Of course, if the contract establishes that the property is with furniture, the landlord is obliged to have furniture.
Yeah. So say, for example, I have a contract. It says this property is going to be furnished. I arrive at the property. It's all furnished. There's no issue. What do I do about, arguing about the condition of the furniture, the property when I leave? What's the difference between me breaking it or just getting worn a bit? I mean, how does all that work?
If we are talking about little reparation, for example, there is a a light that is not working or something like that, you can change it. When I mean little minor scenes, it has to be repaired for the tenant. But for example, if the washing machine stops working, then it's the landlord the one obliged or to repair it or to put a new one.
What happens if he doesn't do it? Is that a whole legal thing if he doesn't fix it?
Hello, John.
I think that we lose Joe.
We lose John. No. John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, Joe.
Oh, okay. You was frozen. Sorry.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So what I was saying was, if, for example, hypothetically, the washing machine stops working, obviously I say to the landlord, the washing machine doesn't work, I send him an email. Is there a point in, what do I do if the landlord doesn't get it sorted? How do I move forward?
Another option will be to repair it by yourself and send the invoice to the landlord so he pay the invoice of the cost or for the reparation or for a new washing machine. In any case, if the landlord doesn't want as everything, the last resort you have is to start legal actions because we can't get that amount of money from the rent.
Yeah, I mean, like Maria said, we are lawyers, but we're in the business of taking people's money to represent them. But try and sort it out without lawyers. Send the landlord a friendly message. And you can fix it yourself, or you can take legal action. So, what about at the end of the tenancy agreement? I move out, and things are like worn a bit. I mean, can the landlord say to me, "Oh, well, this chair's a bit worn," or not broken but worn? What about all those things?
What do you mean?
Well, say for example, worn. Like I've sat in the chair a lot. It's getting smooth. It doesn't look as good as it did when I moved in. But I haven't broken it. Is wear and tear? Is that allowed?
Daily usage.
Yes. If the property is not as it is established in the contract, because of course when you sign the contract, they establish that everything is in order, everything is fine. If you start living in the property and things are not okay, and of course it's not something that you have broken, is the landlord obligation or to get a professional to repair whatever is happening in the property, or you have the right to resolve the contract because of course the condition that they offered you, it doesn't match with the property they offered you.
Right. So when I actually leave though, and it comes to my deposit, can the landlord take money from my deposit, and can I complain if he does, because he's got my money? What can I do?
Of course, the deposit is something that they have to keep it. They can use it until the contract is resolved. The purpose of the deposit is once the contract is resolved, the landlord has to check the property in order to value if everything is in order. What I mean is something is broken because you have not treated well the property. In that case, the landlord can the part of the property that it has to be fixed because as a tenant you have not treated well the property. So the deposit it has to be kept in the landlord until the contract is resolved, and he's obliged to give you back the deposit. The only money he can deduct from the deposit if something is broken because as a tenant you have not doing things correct, or for example from the supplies, because sometimes the invoices for the water or the electricity arrive later.
Right. Yeah. That was another question. Am I entitled to have the like the electric bill, the water bill? Should that be in my name, or can that be in the landlord's name? How does that work?
Both. It can be both.
That's like it could be both. And I suppose things like Wi-Fi included, water included, electric included, gas included. That's part of the contract, whatever I agree to. Yeah. So the other question, and I don't know who's going to answer it, but we just say everybody who lives in Spain needs what's called an NIE number. It's like a number you need to get a bank account, to buy a car, sometimes to even get Amazon delivered, to get a prescription from the chemist. So when you rent a house, do you need an NIE number?
No, it's okay with your passport, but we always recommend to have a number because it's going to do things more easy.
Right. Okay. And Anna, when someone gets a visa, does the NIE number come with the visa, or is it like a separate thing?
Let's say difference. There are some small difference. Let's say generally, when we're applying for the initial residency, we do not need an NIE number. In this case, the immigration or the consulate will automatically assign you the NI number through the process and the end of it.
Right. So you get an NIE number with your visa, but for renting you don't necessarily need an NIE number. But it's advantageous because if you're renting, by the time you're renting, you're going to probably have a Spanish bank account because the landlord will want you to have a Spanish bank account. So you're going to have an NIE number to get a Spanish bank account, aren't you?
Let's see, depends on the bank. There are some cases when you do not need an NI number.
All right. So, yes, it depends on the bank.
The
Yeah.
policy of a specific bank, where are you going?
Right. Another question for Nerea regarding rentals was asked this. If I'm renting a property, do I have to pay for the rental insurance, or is that for the landlord? You know, the insurance if the tenant doesn't pay or I don't leave and the landlord can get insurance. Who has to pay for that?
It really depends on what kind of insurance, but generally is in the landlord's side.
Right. So it's generally for the landlord. So yeah. So just to recap, then, from the visa point of view, it's not cut and dry. But the digital nomad visa, you can come to Spain, you can be in Spain, you can rent a property, and then you can get your digital nomad visa in Spain, but you get less than if you'd applied for the digital nomad visa in, for example, I don't know, South Africa, right? As for the non-lucrative visa, as for some of the student visas, you have to do it in the country that you reside in, don't you?
Yes.
But say, for example, I'm undergoing the non-lucrative visa application in Australia. Well, that's probably a bad example because it's so far away. I'm doing it in England. I'm applying for my non-lucrative visa in England, and it's going well. Anna's happy. All the documents are going backwards and forwards. And I think, okay, I'll just fly off to Alicante, have a look at some property. Can I do that? No.
Unfortunately not. During the process, your passport will be kept at the
all right. So they've got right. Okay. Sorry, people. I'm an English lawyer, and I came before Brexit. But yeah, they take your passport off you when you're applying.
Yes, exactly. In many of the consulates of the United States also, so there's only a few exemptions where the consulates where they do not need your passports for the whole procedure. If I remember good, it was in Australia. You send your documents by post, but we have to recheck it because these requirements might change. But right. Yes, in UK, your passport will be in the consulate during the whole procedure.
Right. So there you go. So you'd have to, if you wanted to rent a property without seeing it, you'd have to rent a property without seeing it. But like we said before, legally you can do it. I wouldn't because it's so dangerous. But make sure that a lawyer gets to look into it. So yeah, Rajesh, what do I have to do to open a business? You would need a entrepreneur visa, wouldn't you?
Let's see. There's a difference between entrepreneur and a self-employed. Let's say you can open the business without being an entrepreneur. Let's say entrepreneur is for the reasons where it could your business will bring a big impact to the Spanish economic. You have the guarantees, you have the grants, for example, from the local authorities or from the government. Let's say it is something that will have the impact to the economic, and something in majority cases do not exist.
So basically, to open a business, there's a self-employed visa and there is the entrepreneur visa, and is it around about 34,000? I know there's no figure quoted, is there? But we recommend around 34,000. Is that right?
Let's see. Well, at least because it's not the same as the non-lucrative. With the business, for example, self-employed business, you can open the business which one you would like in this and with this residency, but the amount will depend after the and during the preparation of the business plan. We will see how exactly your business will need to start its activity. But it's not the same. You open the cafe that you open the fabric.
Yeah,
For
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, but as a rule of thumb, the lower limit is going to be about 35,000 euros, isn't it?
well, at least, let's say, it's not exactly this, as I say. It could at least this, and the minimum you have to do per year, but it always depend on what income you expect and how much you need to invest to your business to start it running.
Yeah, and you'd need obviously a business plan, wouldn't you?
Approval,
Um,
license permits,
so it depends on what business you'd need permits, a business plan. You'd have to show the money. Yeah, and I suppose Nerea, it's not within the scope of this live stream, but is the commercial side of renting completely different from the residential side of renting? If I'm renting a locale to open a bar, is that completely different from renting an apartment?
Some points are the same, but of course it's really different.
Yeah, so we'd have to do a separate thing on that. But yeah, you know, if you're going to open a bar, presumably you. Well, I'll ask Anna. If I was to open a bar, for example, would I have to have a lease as well as my business plan?
let's say if you rent where the place where the bar is, where you're buying the rights of the business, but you don't buying the place where it is, for example. In this case, yes, we need the rental agreement, and this rental agreement also have to include. Well, my understanding that it's allowed to do this activity there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
For example,
So
that's
you'd
the
have to
one
have a
that
rental
I need
agreement
that
saying, yeah,
only
you
50
can
persons
run a
taking
bar
part
or
in
you
it.
can make socks or whatever. You'd have to have a business plan. You'd have to have the money, passport, etc., etc. But that's basically what you'd have to do to a business, and it's a difference between the self-employed visa and the entrepreneur visa. So basically, yeah, just to recap, you've got the self-employed visa, you've got the student visa, you've got the digital nomad visa, which is like working from home, and you can be employed or self-employed. And I think we've done a video on this before with Anna. You've got the non-lucrative visa, which is retirement with no age limit. Other countries insist on an age limit. Spain doesn't. You've just got to have the money. The golden visa, where you buy a property, you get that's all gone now. So we don't have to worry about that one. So I mean, those are the basic categories, aren't they?
Yes, and we'll have to remember also regarding the European Union citizens, because in that cases, especially regarding the procedure where to start the rental agreement, will change. So previously we were speaking about the standard residences when you came to Spain or you applied.
So if I give an example, well, let's go back a step. I'm from Ireland. Usually, I've got an Irish. I haven't, but Irish grandparent. I get my passport, so I become Irish. And we're not going to talk about whether or not that's right or not. But I've got an Irish passport, and I want to come to Spain. How does that work?
Well, in this case, the whole procedure will be different. By law, you're not obliged to have the rental contract, of course, but we have to determine what province is yours. So in this case, we need to establish and sign the rental contract before you go to the national police station.
Right. Okay. So say for example, somebody who has an EU passport, they don't have to prove the address.
Let's say if you came to Spain with the Irish passport and you would like to go to the national police station, in order to understand what national police station belongs to you, you need an address. And
Right.
I think something happened.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Life is limit. I'll do something. I don't understand what's happening here.
Right. Okay. So
We
yeah.
have
So you need
little
to.
problems here. Let's here. Here.
I don't know.
We have little problems.
One moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's somebody else on the feed.
I think it's for the inconvenience.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, yeah, you need to have. H. Now my dog's going crazy. Right. So, and if you're an EU citizen, then after I think it's 90 days, isn't it? You can come here, but after 90 days, you have to register, get health insurance. Again, that's not part of this podcast. If you need it. So, Nerea, does it make a difference if I'm renting a property in Spain, what passport I have, whether it's EU or not? Or does that make any difference?
No.
No. Okay. So it's completely. We're not troubled by that. Anybody in Spain, anybody can rent in Spain for anywhere in the world. The issue you're going to have, and it would be Anna's department, is how long you can spend in Spain. But legally, you can do that. Okay. So I think we've been through it all. Really, I think we've covered all the different ones. So remember, some visas you need to be here, some you don't. Different consulates have different rules or different interpretations of the Spanish law as to what you need regarding an address. So if you have a word with Anna about that, and obviously if you're thinking about renting, you get the rental contract, speak to Nerea, but don't send anybody any money or sign anything until you've spoken to somebody like Nerea. I can't think. Have we covered everything? Have we?
I think yes.
Yeah.
And well, my recommendation is, let's see, if you came with your spouse, better that both of you are in the rental contract, because it will be easier for you at the padron demonstrate that you both living there. Without, let's say, for example, you go alone, no problem, you authorize you in the contract, but your spouse are not in the contract. In this case, we will need additional approval from the landlord to demonstrate to the town hall that your spouse also authorized there. Sometimes it could be problems at the town hall in this case.
Right, it's a good point. Make sure that the rental contract is for both of you. Yeah.
Yeah, kids, for example, your kids are not necessarily that they are in a contract. They presume that they're joining you. So in this case, do not worry about it. I had this question, that's why I would like to clarify. Minors, not obligate, or your kids, they are not obliged to be in the contract. But spouses, yes. Where or your mother-in-law or your father-in-law, sister, brother, all of them, if they will live there and want to be at the padron, ideally that they are included from the beginning. Of course,
Right.
afterwards it could be a result, it could be adjusted, but it will take more time. If you all came together, all will go into the padron, everybody in the contract.
Excellent. Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure if anyone's got any questions, it's contact@justlostlisters.com. And yeah, so thanks to Nerea. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but it's above me. Nerea's on the right and Anna's on the left. And like I say, buying a property, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Taxes, accounting, that's another load of things. Wills is another load of things. Forming a company is another thing. This is just a little piece of the big jigsaw about moving to Spain. So, well, thank you, everybody. Yeah, okay, and we'll pop this up on our YouTube channel, hopefully. And if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on there. So, anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have no idea what to press now, but thanks a lot. Bye. So, what did you think about the live stream then? Did you like it? What did you think? No, you have to tell me what you think. Did you like it? What about you? Did you like the live stream? Or are you still fast asleep? No? Did you like it? Well, Dory did.